Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Fishers Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. I'd ask everyone to please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Ferrucci.
Here.
Mr. Grinslade.
Here.
Mr. Sylvie.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson. And Mr. Lannon.
Here.
Thank you.
So we have a quorum to conduct business this evening. Our first order of business is approval of our previous minutes from December 20th, 2023. Do we have any modifications to those minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Our next order of business is election of officers, appointments, and designations. So we do this in January of each year for those that weren't here last January. And the first election is election of the chairperson. So do we have any nominations for the chairperson?
I nominate Steve.
Second.
I have a first and second. Secretary?
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Sylvie.
Aye.
Mr. Grinslade.
Aye.
And Mr. Ferrucci.
Aye as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Next order of business would be election of the vice chairperson. And I'd like to elect Howard Stevenson to serve in that role. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Secretary?
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Sylvie.
Aye.
Mr. Grinslade.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Aye.
Thank you. Congratulations.
So we have a chairperson and vice chairperson. Next is the appointment of secretaries. Ross Hillary, Gabrielle Herron, Christy Cashin, and Kevin Martin. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to appoint those.
Secretaries? We have a motion.
Second.
Second? We have a second. Secretary?
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Sylvie.
Aye.
Mr. Grinslade.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Aye.
Thank you.
Appointment of recording secretary, Kate Prang and Kelly Lewerk. Motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Lannon.
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Sylvie.
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Sylvie.
Aye.
Mr. Grinslade.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next order, designation of Plan Commission Legal Counsel, Creek DeVault. I'll move to approve that. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a first and a second. Secretary?
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Sylvie.
Aye.
Mr. Grinslade.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Aye. And finally, designation of commission legal publications through the Noblesville Times, the Current, and Hamilton County Reporter. Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Lannon moves. Second?
Second.
We have a second.
Mr. Lannon.
Aye.
Mr. Sylvie.
Aye.
Mr. Grinslade.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Aye.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Our first public hearing is 8958 East 96th Street drive-through variance, case number VA 23-34. It's a request for consideration of development standards variances, one from section 2.C.2a, preliminary development plan of the Lantern Pines ordinance number 090391A to allow a restaurant drive-through within the Health Science Center area of the PUD, and a land use variance from section 5.4.8D2B use regulations of the city's UDO to allow a drive-up window, exterior menu board, and speakers associated with a restaurant or coffee house within 400 feet of any building zoned or used for residential purposes. The petitioner is Matthew Land. Is Mr. Land present?
Mr. Land is not present, but Chris Cunningham, the property owner, is.
All right, Mr. Cunningham, please approach the podium and state your position.
State my name.
Name, address, and the reason you're here.
Yeah, okay. Chris Cunningham, address 8629 Seaward Lane, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46256. And the reason I'm here today is I own the property that we're talking about, and I wanted to ask for for a variance to use it as for a drive-through, adding a drive-through.
All right. I think you have a couple of slides.
Yeah, can I go? Okay, I just didn't. Okay. So this is the property here. It's located just north of 96th Street. And a little history, the building's been there for about 20 years. And this area closest to us had a Starbucks in it for about 18 years. And they've since closed that site. And one of the reasons they closed that site is because it lacked drive-through. And they've since moved within the planned urban development about 1,000 feet to the west and built a new standalone location. So I'll just show you a couple of aerial pictures. This is the property at the bottom center, and that is looking to the east on that 96th Street. You see that circle there. There's a church directly adjacent to the east of the property. And then this is the building on the bottom right. And if you look at the long skinny building in the middle, there's a Dunkin' Donuts at the end that has a drive-through currently. And then if you look, it's kind of hard to see, but next to that building is the new Starbucks location. I took some pictures of the drive, and this is the south-facing wall. Again, south-facing wall. And then this would be the drive on the backside, where we're requesting the drive-through kiosk, if you will. Probably that blue awning and white door that would get remodeled for a drive-through if approved. And this is an aerial photo showing the church to the right and the left where the Dunkin' Donuts is, and then our building's in the center there. And I think that's... Oh, I do. Okay, so this may be a little tough to see on the screen. What you're looking at is red lines there, so a potential order sign, and then a drive-through lane, and then you would turn left and then out the north side of the space. And then this is I included a drawing, an engineer drawing that we had done of the same. And then this is one option. This is in the file. Possible doing angle, but that's not the one we're actually considering. So, do you want me to go back to any of the slides?
If you would go back to the slide right there.
Okay.
Yep. So just point out to us so we're all clear. There seems to be to the left of the photograph kind of a red line.
Yeah.
What is that?
That is illustrating the most likely location for the order sign. Like where you pull up and it'll have the menu board and the microphone speaker combination. That would be the proposed location for that.
Okay. Okay. So customers would then pull in off of just to the south in that picture there, pull in and then see the menu board and then drive around to pick up
That's correct.
at that that door that you're going to remodel.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And then they'd exit along what would be the east of head east and then back around.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, exit the north side and then back onto Fitness Lane, and then they could either go over to, I want to say Lantern, or down to 96.
Is that one-way or two-way traffic kind of along the drive-through lane? Is that a one-way?
Yeah, that would be a one-way.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Anything else to add, sir?
No.
All right. Staff?
Just sit down.
Good evening, Christy Cashin, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. This project before you tonight is a commercial building at 8958 East 96th Street in the Lantern Pines PUD. The petitioner is requesting a land use variance from the Lanterns PUD and a development standard variance from the city's UDO. The land use variance is requested from section 2.C.2.A, preliminary development plan of the Lantern Pines ordinance number 090391A, to allow a restaurant drive-through within the Health Science Center area of the PUD. A development standard variance is requested from the section 5.4.8.d.2.b use regulations of the city's UDO to allow a drive-up window, exterior menu board, and speakers associated with a restaurant or coffee shop less than 400 feet from any building zoned or used for residential purposes. I want to point out the public notice and the staff report listed those in opposite variance types. The variance type for the from the PUD is actually a land use instead of a development, and vice versa for the one from the UDO. And that Rodney had said that was not a problem, that it was noticed with the use variance versus development variance. All right. So these are the site plans showing the location of the menu sign and the drive-through window highlighted. They're both highlighted in green on both of these site plans. The proposed menu sign is 189 feet from the residential building to the south, and the proposed drive-through window is 222 feet from the residential building to the east. Parking along 96th Street will need to be removed to allow room for the drive-through stacking lane on the south side of the building. The petitioner has agreed to remove these spots. This building is required to have 57 parking spots, and the removal of those spots will leave them with exactly 57 spaces. Planning has discussed the single lane on the east side of the building with engineering staff and fire staff, and both do not see any concerns regarding this particular proposal. Here are a few images of the current conditions at the site. These photos of the property show the location of the proposed stacking lane, drive-through window, the drive-through lane behind the building. The photos at the bottom center and the bottom right show the view of the residential buildings across the street and on the other side of the church property. These are just a couple of images to give you an idea of the location of where the menu sign might be and where the drive-through window might be located. Menu sign on the left, drive-through window on the right. And we received 2 emails with questions and or concerns about the project. Timothy O'Connor of O'Connor and Arsh Law Group represents Covington Estates neighborhood east of the project site. His questions were regarding the name of the name or type of the business that was going into the space, as well as questions about their signage and hours of operation, which staff answered in an email. The answer is that we don't know those things yet. They haven't filed for, they haven't rented out the property, and that will all be talked about in a different process, planning process. He would also like to know if any other alterations will be made to the parking lot aside from removing the parking along 96th Street or to the intended travel lane that parallels the strip mall on the east side. He would also like to know if they would consider the construction of a fence or a wall at the southeast corner of the subject property to prevent vehicle headlights from shining onto the properties to the east in the Covington Estates neighborhood. John Schneider of 9745 Logan Lane in Covington East neighborhood also had questions regarding the property. He had a few zoning and variance process questions that were answered by staff, as well as wanting to know if the existing rear drive along the east side of the building was an acceptable drive-through route when it is also apparently the service access for the various tenants, including deliveries and trash. Staff has no recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Should the board approve this petition, staff recommends It is done in with the following conditions. Single menu board is installed. A landscaping is added along 96th Street, and the approval letter and relative documentation is recorded on the property with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Members of the board, any questions for
I
the
have a
petitioner?
question. On the east side, you've marked it's 222 feet to the
To
east
the
side.
church.
That's a church, right?
Yeah, but it's zoned residential,
Okay.
so it's technically
I
counts.
do have a question, and maybe this is a question for you, sir. If you're a drive-through patron, a customer, and there's a delivery, further along the way as you head east to exit, are you gonna have the ability to go around a vehicle that maybe stopped to deliver things? How will that work through the passing lane?
Yeah, so, okay. So, right now, no deliveries go through the back doors. We have an H&R Block, a nail salon. All the UPS deliveries have been utilizing the front. I've talked to several of the tenants, and it wasn't gonna be a problem when we were talking about maybe putting up some railing if they were to exit out that door, so you wouldn't walk into it.
Yeah,
And we've also considered extending or widening that lane. And we're in the process of just getting proposals and some engineering for that as well.
okay. And
That process would need another variance.
Yeah,
Because
right.
it would be too close, it would remove the buffer
And that's-
yard in that space,
Yeah,
or remove some of it.
right.
So right now, there's enough room for one vehicle to head east to exit, but not two?
Correct.
Right, okay. So that's an issue you'll have to contend with down the road,
Correct.
potentially.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Question, I also noticed that there's the mailbox for all the units is on that back side?
Yeah, we relocate that.
Relocate that?
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions, board members? Do we have a motion? Oh, excuse me, strike that. At this time, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is anyone here from the public to speak to this petition? Please approach the podium, sir, and state your name and address for the record.
Sorry, there you go.
Thank you.
I didn't forget about you, sorry about that.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tim O'Connor. I live at 9724 Covington Boulevard in Fishers. And the property that I live in is almost due east from the subject property. I represent the Covington Estates Homeowners Association as its attorney. And the association has some concerns, particularly with regard to noise pollution that might come from the speakers and also light pollution that might come from vehicles at night that are traveling through the drive-through. If a vehicle pulls into the drive-through as it's proposed, at nighttime, its headlights would shine directly across that churchyard, right into the backyard of at least one, maybe two homes that are in Covington Estates. So we're concerned with that. We're also concerned about noise that might be generated from the speaker, which could travel across that open yard into Covington Estates. I mean, it's pretty far. I'm not sure. It's several hundred feet at least, I guess, but still, it's a concern to the neighborhood. So we thought that if it might remedy both problems, the light and the noise, if the building owner would construct maybe a hardscape that would block the headlights and the noise. And that the construction of that hardscape could be done right at the southeast corner of the building, and I think still leave room for cars to get through and so forth. So those were our primary concerns. We also would point out that this is a very tight space that they're going to put this into, and I suppose that's the building owner's concern as well, but it just seems like they're just putting a drive-through in a space that wasn't intended for it, and it seems like it's just awfully tight. So that's all I had.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else here from the public to speak to this petition? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Once again, ask for any questions or comments from the board.
I don't think so.
I do. Sir, could you approach again? Yeah. So the gentleman that represented Covington Estates had proposed a potential hardscape on the southeast corner. Is that something you're willing to consider?
Oh, yeah, we would absolutely do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you willing to voluntarily commit to that as part of tonight's process?
I see no reason not to. Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine. And I don't know, defining hardscape if it's a combination, and I guess we'd have to look within.
You'd work with staff to
Yeah,
figure
okay.
that
I
out.
I
Yeah.
assume it'd be like some sort of combination of plants
Fencing,
and-
landscaping,
Yeah,
some
something that-
combination of the two
Yep.
potentially. Yeah,
Yeah,
staff
we
would,
have no problem with that.
okay, staff would direct you there.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Have you consulted with any professional as of yet regarding, you mentioned that those rear doors on the building, that the thought was maybe putting something at the edge of the edge of the sidewalk
Mhm.
to keep people from exiting into the travel way. Because those are workplaces, I think I would be concerned about or need to investigate an escape route for OSHA.
Hmm.
It's just something that I wonder about.
Yeah. We haven't investigated that professionally. We were just thinking as, if cars are exiting right back that way, just someone were to walk out blindly, we wanted to have a buffer there, so we had talked about a railing.
They do something similar near 116th and Allisonville where that Dairy Queen is. The drive-through is very similar to this, and behind it, there's sort of a railing that he's talking about.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the railings out past the sidewalks at the doors, so you just won't walk blindly out the doors and
Understood.
right into the
Yeah.
drive-through lane.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve VA 23-34 with the following conditions. Single menu board is installed. Landscaping is added along the 96th Street side and the southeast corner area. An approval letter and relative documentation be recorded on the property with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Secretary?
Mr. Grinslade,
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie,
No.
Mr. Lannon,
Aye.
and Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, sir. Our next order of business would be new business, the 2024 Rules of Procedure.
Yes, thank you. Ross Hillary, Director of Planning and Zoning. I just wanted to put this before you tonight as a draft rules and procedures update. So a bit of an overview. The last time you guys saw an amendment to the rules and procedures was in 2022 when we added our electronic participation policy that was required by the state of Indiana. The updates that you have in front of you attached to your agenda, we have some updates to Article 3, updating our meeting location of the foreseeable future to the municipal center, the new building that City Hall will be located in. Article 5, which is the notice of hearings, allowing both a joiner list to be procured both from Hamilton County as well as our own GIS team. We have that capabilities now, which does have some cost savings measurements behind it. Updating our newspaper noticing to include the new title for Current and Lawrence Geist, as well as the Hamilton County Reporter. You guys approved those tonight as part of the noticing documents. And then what is probably the most important part added is the decision section in Article 7. And this was a direct response to one of our items that we happened I think, at our last meeting. Just to clarify, when a vote of the board does not result in an official action, that petition would then be automatically continued to the next board meeting to allow for them to be heard again at that point, with the intent that we would have more members and then a decision could be rendered. Staff put this together with you. Rodney and his team are also reviewing it, and the intent is at our next meeting for you guys to approve it. So if you have any questions or anything that you go through there, it's a red line document, so you can see all the changes. Staff's happy to answer any questions.
Only question I have is on that last point that you just mentioned, What happened with that petition? Is that going to be continued to be before us again soon?
It is not, based on the fact that we didn't have an existing rules.
Well, he has the right to come back.
Right.
To be heard.
Okay.
He's not made that decision to do so.
Okay,
He may revise his plan, we just don't know what his particular plan
okay.
is.
Thank
In
you.
the future, if that happens again, now we have something to say. We know exactly what
Yeah,
to do.
I'm glad, because there seemed to be some confusion when he was here on how to deal with that, at least from my perspective, so.
It's the reason why we've always offered them, if we only have 3 members, the ability to get a free continuance, just because that's the ultimate result. We don't get a majority board decision.
Right.
So now we're just formalizing.
Great. So we'll vote on that next month.
Correct. Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any staff communication?
No staff communication.
Very good. At this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.